Senator Raphael Warnock is leading in his race against Herschel Walker, but Stacey Abrams is behind Governor Kemp. Now, Abrams says if black men vote for her, she'll win. But the math ain't really math in there. And I know Roland has a lot of thoughts about that. I want to bring into the conversation Cliff Albright. He's the co-founder of Black Voters Matter Fund. And Terrence Woodbury. He's a Democratic pollster and CEO and founding partner of Hit Strategies. Cliff, I do want to start with you since you're on ground there in Georgia. We'll get to the debate between Walker and Warnock in a second. But just being on ground there, Cliff, what do you make of that? Like, are black men large in number enough to decide this race for Stacey Abrams? Or is this just a headline that's, more yellow journalism and sensationalism than truth?
Yeah, good morning, Tiffany. Great to be here with you. Obviously, black males, black men voters make up enough of a block where we can be a part of what the difference is. And we got to keep in mind, we're talking about a state where in the presidential election in 20, the difference was famously those 11,700 votes that Trump was trying to find someplace. So in a situation like that, yeah, black men as a voting bloc can be a big part of the equation. And, whether or not we come out, black men in Georgia come out and support Stacey at the same rate that black women do, is a legitimate question. Now certainly, black men aren't going to bear the brunt of what happens in this election on their own, no more than black women should bear the brunt of it. Some white folks get have to wake up and actually do the right thing in the state if they wanted to move forward. But I think that it is smart to raise this issue, because at the end of the day, and we hate to admit it, but there is some number of black men that will just refuse to vote. It's the sexism, it's the patriarchy that just refuse to vote for a woman, whether that woman is Stacey Abrams or whether it was Hillary Clinton in 16. And that's an issue that we have to address. Again, that's not the majority of us. It's not a plurality of us, but we have to address that, and we have to be willing to call that out and call it what it is.
Yeah. Well, Terrence, you're on ground doing work, doing polling there. And so I think Cliff raises a really good point, which I want to dig into. But Terrence, I want to ask you just for the math part, because I don't know that it's fair to lay this at the feet of black men and say, yeah, you guys cost us the election, because black men overwhelmingly vote Democratic. And so as a pollster, I'm curious your take on this conversation around black male voters in Georgia.
Yeah, thank you for that, Tiffany. The truth is that the Democratic support gap between men and women is not unique to black voters. There's a gender gap amongst all voters where men are more likely to vote conservative. Now, when you look at the math here, Stacey Abrams lost in 2018 by 55,000 votes. Had black men voted for Stacey Abrams at the same rate as black women, she would have had 120,000 more votes. So there is math there. The challenge is that since 2018, Republicans have doubled down on their efforts, coordinated and expensive investments, targeting black men, targeting men of color. And in 2020, we saw Donald Trump double his margins amongst black men in Georgia. A difference of 370,000 votes. The gap between black men and black women was the difference of 370,000 votes in Georgia. And so we do have to close that gap. And while that is not unique to black men, and we see that gap amongst all men of color, the difference with black men is that they were Democratic voters. These were Obama voters. And some would argue that they were only Obama voters. They were never, in fact, Democratic voters. And that is where Democrats have work to do to prove that since 2020, they have made progress on the issues that matter most to black men, and that they have a plan for black men moving forward.
All right. So Cliff mentioned Hillary Clinton. Terrence talked about Obama. We have to take this thing back a decade. Mm-hmm. Okay. Why am I wearing this shirt?